Game number 2 coming your way, and it's going to be coming on a map that we haven't seen a whole lot of in the last couple of weeks as we do move on to America. It's going to be Route 66, and these two teams, DDK, have a lot of history, as we mentioned before. We do, of course, have OW Kings, which has an incredible background in gaming. A lot of these guys were very well known back in the old Enemy Territory days, so Enemy Territory fans in the chat, let us know if you're rooting for this team. And then they're going to be facing off against their rivals from Dirty Bomb. It's going to be Team Dignitas, recently signed by this top-tier organization, which, Dan, I think you have a little bit of history with Dignitas, don't you?
Yeah, I signed a contract to play for Dignitas in 2005.
There you go.
I was there for 2 years, 2005 to 2007, playing the Quakes.
A little bit of history for you guys.
By the way, on Big L's Diner, on the sign, there is a really big no refunds thing. I feel like there's a salty pass there.
You know, I never noticed
that big.
Refunds on food, that's not something you see a lot. All right, Dignitas coming out of the gate, and Linkser this time on Genji, and we have been begging to see Linkser's Genji for some time. I mean, he's been relegated, shouldn't say relegated, but he's been playing a ton of Zarya as of late, but we all know that his Genji can be top tier.
We have a very standard setup here from Overwatch Kings. This is very much the meta. And we've got the Winston jumping onto the top of Big L's Diner. I mentioned the concussive blast here. Well, Winston's going to do the job there by just getting the body onto the shield, just dispersing the defense off of the Diner. And it's actually going to be Linkser to make a multitude of frags here as Dignitas look to be keeping this effort somewhat alive, but that payload is moving regardless. And that was a very simplistic play, a very predictable one, but it works so well.
Yeah, and we have actually both the Tracer and the Genji, of course, for OW Kings on attack, and this is the dive composition. It's paid off. They were able to dislodge Dignitas from the rooftops, and a pretty shaky start to start things off as Linkser and co. Dignitas relegated to the second point almost immediately in 1 minute. They have blown through that first point.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about Himsy these days after the hooks we saw yesterday. I feel like they could have used the Himsy to hook the Winston out of the air, but either way, it's going to be the very slow doors finally opened, and the payload can start on moving through. And ultimate-wise, we only have this Deadeye, and not much else coming in the near future, so this is going to be a hard hold in this initial point. Overwatch Kings looking to gain a lot of space here with that payload, and there is the Deadeye to slow things down as Bremus looks for a target there, the protection of Reinhardt, and he's going to drop down, find himself too. That's a wonderful result there, and Dignitas are going to be slowing this one down.
And here comes the Dragon Blade as well, and we'll be able to collect one final kill, and Shatter2k has to run away, the last one up for his team of OW Kings, and he will successfully back off and rejoin for one more push. We do have the Dragon Blade out for Shatter, so question is, will he be able to combo with the Lucio sound barrier, get that extra HP, and move right in for some kills? We'll find out in a second.
Yeah, I feel like even though the first point went very quickly for Dignitas, they wouldn't be too worried, but have to hold that fort now as you get the Dragon Blade out, and the big engage is on the way. Shatter also has himself that sound barrier to work with, but hard-pressed to find some targets to take down here. Not the best Dragon Blade ever. Have to see if Overwatch Kings can do the job with the team play with the Zarya on the full charge. But nice Earth Shatter dropping Zarya, and this is going to work out quite well for Dignitas as they deflect that attack.
Yes, they have deflected successfully off the back of 2 support ultimates. So Dignitas now left with almost no resources to their name. They will have a Dragon Blade soon, but yet they've still held, and that's good enough for them at this point in time. And this is a point where you're going to see the defending team try and take the high ground as much as possible. It's not a super high ground. It is fairly easy for the attacking team to get on up there through the route that we're actually seeing. This tunnel allows you to get up onto the high ground, but that said, Dignitas has found their position.
And here goes the next attack, and that ultimate advantage, as you mentioned, is going to come into play there. Easy, very easily done there to place that pulse bomb straight in there. Oba able to get the frag. And it's going to be Linkser, though, with that Genji, able to return fire. And he's just running all over them at the moment as we get Zarya out in the open. But it looks like Dignitas are going to be able to deflect this. And as you mentioned previously, the last deflection, they used a lot of resources, and that maybe could have gotten them up behind if the Overwatch Kings would have had a better engagement here, but they didn't. And so Dignitas themselves, they finally will have an ultimate advantage.
Yeah, they have a couple, well, it looks like Bromos should be able to use that Deadeye to sort of space out and give his team a little bit more breathing room, as OW Kings got to be afraid of that. But they are behind the Reinhardt shield. They'll be looking to try and get the high ground on the left side this time, switching their plan of attack up here on Route 66.
see Linksa just a bit of Linksa as he darts all over the place there with the dash. And Shadow there trying to get some damage in onto the supports here. Very nice, but he's already lost 3 teammates, so a little bit late to that effort, and he's going to try to get out of there now. But they do know where he is, and he's in a lot of danger right now. Linksa finds him, takes him down. That will be a staggered respawn there for him. They won't want to go in, that is Overwatch Kings, without Shadow being alive. So that does kill a lot of time, and Dignitas, after conceding the first point so quickly, that's going to be very nice for them.
Yep, all right, so back to the drawing board as OW Kings taking yet another plan of attack. Each time they're taking a slightly different route as they move on towards the payload. And Dignitas, though, they've felt very strong, very consistent up on the roof, or excuse me, up on the high ground, and Bromas will be able to get a couple kills, make that 3 in a row off the back of that huge Graviton Surge, which was able to suck up maybe 4 people.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there, again, is that Overwatch Kings definitely wanted to force out a lot of ultimates. They did actually. I think they managed to force Dignitas to use 3 ultimates, and now that's going to mean that they're even on the ultimates, so the job was done there, but they really need to make the next push or 2 work. Otherwise, they are just going to be done here, just stopped on the second point.
Here comes Shatter, and will he be able to get some kills? There is the response of the Transcendence, which means that Dragon Blade's very hard to find value with a Transcendence right in your face. Shatter's once again more or less stumped, as he's going to be 1 versus 2 here and no dice whatsoever. Alba, though, responds. Was that a Deadeye? It must have been a Deadeye coming out of Alba there. Able to get a couple kills, 3 kills in a row. Rib will get the 4th, and that should be enough for OW Kings to at least get a little bit of progress. But perhaps here is still enough time for Dignitas to try and stop the capture of this next point.
Yeah, one last dive is possible, but without any ultimates, it's going to be very, very difficult indeed. And Rip, he can feel quite comfortable popping a Primal Rage there, just bash them all away and ruin their positioning, as they already are working with a choke point, and that's just not going to be favorable. They go for the effort, and, well, I guess they might as well. That door is very slow to open. They can kind of afford to do it from some perspectives, but at the same time, it's a fight that they probably can never win, and they're giving away a lot of ultimate charge to their opponents. Okay,
OW Kings has gotten to the final point, but just barely. And this is one that tends to be a little bit defensive-oriented. If you're able to take nice positions, which a lot of teams at this level are going to be able to do, it's hard to dislodge. I mean, there's several different areas of high ground that you can take, and Linkster's going to be able to get up to each and every one of them, of course playing Genji with that mobility.
So you see, the Dignitas are going to have to be defending this Overwatch Kings push. We get the Transcendence coming in there from Overwatch Kings, as the High Noon as well will follow, and it is looking fantastic as they get 4 kills back to back, thanks to Shatter, who's going to find himself the McCree, but it's going to be Bromas able to stop the Genji, and maybe he can do a little bit of extra damage here, but he's working against so many opponents, it will be very hard for him to stay alive, and he'll have to back away, and Dignitas are in real trouble at the moment.
Yeah, Alba taking a nice position now, going to be able to rain in damage from above, and this is the last chance for Dignitas, but also the last chance for OW Kings. They only really have 1 or 2 more pushes, so Artir drawing the first blood here. Lynx are going to get the second, and that should be enough to shut down this push. That said, OW King still has 1 more chance to try and finish off the map. Pretty slow time, but they definitely want to do it nonetheless, and we'll see if they can in just a moment.
Yeah, and I love the switch onto Reaper. Reapers can be so annoying in this last phase, even though it's one big long channel on either side. You can get some really close range engagements, but not only that, you can cut off sight very quickly, and with the Ray form, it's very, very annoying to deal with, especially if you don't have like a Roadhog or somebody to disable him with a hook. And either way, is now Overwatch Kings going in. Shadow will engage there with the Dragon Blade, trying to take down the supports, trying to take down the squishies. Can he get something done? A lot of time wasted on this Dragon Blade. Oh, there is a nice swipe, but Shadow is going to just keep on going. 3 frags for him until finally he's stopped by Artia, the Zarya of Dignitas, and Dignitas look like they may have done enough now.
Oh man, still Dignitas has fought back, but 1 single swipe from that Dragon Blade got 3 kills. I actually don't think I've ever seen that, DDK, and pretty good stuff from Shatter in the very end. Trying to get some heroics, but Alba will put his team on his back here. He's going to be able to get 4 kills in a row, and OW Kings in a great position to try and set a time here.
Yeah, that Earthshatter to Deadeye combo is so clutch. They looked all over for Overwatch Kings, but they found something in the last moment to save it, and they're pushing forwards. Too many men to the advantage. We see the Diva coming out. Every stop is being pulled out right now by Dignitas to delay to save this as they trickle in 1 player at a time. But Overwatch Kings are standing very tall on that payload, and they do not look to be stopped. It is going to go to Overwatch Kings.
In the overtime, though, and that means it's a slow time. It's very beatable for Dignitas here, as they are the favorites in this matchup, and But, you know, I liked some of the moments we saw there. Some great ult coordination for OW Kings. Shatter really wasn't able to do a ton with the Dragon Blade, but it really was Olba who stepped up to the plate in coordination a lot of the time with that Earth Shatter. And Deadeye was good time and time again. So that's a time set by OW Kings, and that bodes well for them. They're definitely the underdog here, let's be honest. Dignitas have the history, they have the experience. They've been playing together for months and months and months, and actually if you go back to the Dirty Bomb days, for actually well over a year now. So this team looking quite strong in the matchup, and we'll see when they switch to attack, will they have the opportunity to beat this time set by OW Kings?
Absolutely, such a clutch play there from Olba there. 4 frags, as you can see. And also on the second point where they were having so much trouble in a must-win last attack, he's the guy that gets the first 2 kills in the initial engagement, and it just made all the difference. And now it is Overwatch Kings' time to perhaps sit on top of Big Earl's Diner. Now, I wonder what Dignitas' composition is going to look like. Are they going to run with this?
Yeah, I mean, well, just to give a little bit of background on Dignitas, we did used to see Linkser playing Genji almost every time, or playing DPS, and for a while now, he's been playing Zarya. Our tier, though, he used to be a McCree main. I mean, he almost never switched off McCree, so we've seen a little bit of shuffling. We talked about this a whole lot during the ESL Atlantic Showdown, but it looks like the shuffling is working, may work out here for Dignitas, as now Bromos has kind of become the new McCree main, and this is the first time that we've really seen our tier stick to Zarya as well. So this shuffle, will it pay off? We're about to find out, as Dignitas is going to be coming out the gates here on Route 66. And let's look at the positioning on defense here by OW Kings. For once, a team is actually not taking the top of Big Earl's Diner, and what is this hyper-aggressive play coming out from OW Kings? I don't know if this is going to be able to pay off. It's just so aggressive. They're looking to try and stop this payload right off the bat. Olba, though, doing tons of work now as Tracer left with just 4 HP, but there's the Mega Health, ready and waiting.
The Mega Health indeed, and the Quake coming out there, and I had to say, that did look really, really aggressive. Like perhaps almost there was a bit of a miscommunication. Winston way ahead of his teammates, and easy frag, easy movement here for Dignitas, as there is not much of a defense to post on Big Earl's Diner, just a couple players at the moment. They will be reinforced as time goes on, but the payload continues to move. There's a re-engage there from Winston off of the spawn, and there's a couple frags going the way initially of Overwatch Kings, but there's much more for a response here. Seemingly, it's actually going to go all to Winston. Rib able to get a bunch of players down for Dignitas, and so finally the Winston dive will work out, and they very much needed that, because that payload otherwise may have just gone all the way.
Yeah, this hyper-aggressive defense from OW Kings is interesting. It's not something you expect to see all the time, although we have seen it more commonly as of late than prior. You know, if you're in a ranked game and you see a Tracer on defense, you're like, oh god, what is this guy doing? But here, Olba has been able to make it work. Linkser will get the first blood, though. The Dragon Blade is out, and it's getting lots of value, slashing and dashing. Here comes Linkser, getting 3 kills in a row, and that should be enough here for OW Kings to drop out. Adetto, the only one left alive. He will have Transcendence, but just barely enough time, maybe not even enough time at all for OW Kings to get on in here and stop the collection of this next point, as Dignitas rolling straight forward. A couple ultimates to their name as well.
Absolutely, and we do get the Graviton Surge coming in there, used very, very liberally to get a couple extra kills, and that's going to be really nice. And the Transcendence is popped to try to negate it, but you almost wonder, you know, should they perhaps afford to save that Transcendence, considering the engagement here. But that said, Zarya's left doing a lot of damage, but there's just not really enough support in players there. Being overwhelmed by Overwatch Kings here, as Dignitas cleaned that one up. Do you feel like they should have saved those ults?
Yeah, it's always questionable. I mean, this is one of the toughest calls that you can have in this game is, do we want to just risk jumping on in, using ultimates to try and save this point? I mean, if you succeed, it's a huge boon. Of course, the spawn points will remain as they are instead of moving on forward. But if you fail, you've wasted ultimates. You've given a ton of breathing room and a ton of space for Dignitas in this case. So obviously, in that case, wasn't worth it. But if it had worked, we'd be singing their praises.
And one thing right now for Overwatch Kings, they do have a Graviton Surge, but the Dragon Blade from Linkser plus a Transcendence to negate that Graviton Surge should be enough to give the advantage there. But Linkser goes down almost immediately to Shatter 2K. He gets himself a third one, and this is looking amazing for Overwatch Kings. I did not expect the fight to go that way. On paper, Dignitas had all the right tools to negate everything of Overwatch Kings, but they just outplayed them from an individual perspective, and now Dignitas they're at a bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah, actually, take a look. Linkser has switched on over to Reaper now. No more Genji for Linkser, and I think that's very much in response to Rib, who's been jumping into the back lines with Winston time and time again. He's going to look and try to get that early pick, so Winston gets out of the picture quick, and that is exactly what has happened here so far. Alba, though, still on the point, and this is weird positioning now for Dignitas, as they've come all the way from the left-hand flank. They are together, though. They are getting behind that Reinhardt shield. Linkser looking for an early kill on Olba, but Olba able to dash on backwards, and the team of OW Kings is able to fall back, and they're going to be able to regroup one more time. Dignitas, though, with a little bit more momentum. They do have the sound barrier to engage this next fight. They will have the Deadeye as well. We'll see if they can take advantage of that.
I loved Olba's very quick spot on the Lucio, who was isolated, went for the very fast forward pick. That actually meant a big deal. I think otherwise maybe a speed boost could have come in and they could have actually wiped him and also the Zenyatta. So, oh, he's going to find himself around the back there with a nice speed boost. Very nicely done. Sound barrier coming in, and we'll have to see whether that's going to work out right now, as Olba's still in the back lines, but the shield will protect Bromas. He'll finish off the frag as he was always meant to do, and now we have a more full frontal engagement as Shatter with the Genji is going straight in there, trying to find the kill on the Discord target. He has a Dragon Blade, but will he opt to use it right now? Does he have enough teammates? He thinks he does. Out comes the Blade, but he gets disabled and then taken down. And this is going to be Dignitas now loving this engagement as it just starts to swing better and better towards their favor.
Yeah, and fantastic Earth Shatter there. Coming out of Numlocked, he heard the Dragon Blade get pulled out, and instant reaction to drop that Earth Shatter, and that knocked, of course, and knocked Shatter over, and not able to get any value with that whatsoever. And now if you look at OW Kings, they are down and out. They don't have the resources to engage immediately here. Of course, they will have the sound barrier very soon, and that could be what they need, but otherwise, for the time being, they're going to have to look for some kind of early pick to gain any kind of advantage now. Dignitas with all the momentum.
So that's very doable, but that said, Graviton Surge comes in from Overwatch Kings. They've got a lot more to throw into it as well if they want to. The Transcendence is used to try to negate it, and that's going to be, right now, Dignitas being able to pick up a couple frags. Archer's still alive with some charge as well. The Graviton comes in. Bromas from the back with the flashbang. The charge from Reinhardt goes in there as well. A Transcendence to negate all of that damage, but I think too many players have been lost here. Reinhardt in the back line, swiping down 3 players in a row, and it is a slippery slope right there for Overwatch Kings as everybody hits the ground.
And Twitty throws out a desperation Earth Shatter in the end, and you almost think that he maybe should have saved that. Questionable at that point in time, but Twitty will be out into the action back again here soon, so he definitely wishes he had it this time, but that's actually a nice backup. They saw the Reaper Death Blossom coming. They're going to be backing off behind Twitty's Reinhardt shield, and still one last chance to save this. That's at 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. Plenty of time. Even if Dignitas doesn't get it here, they're going to have it anyway, and that's going to be the first map, Route 66. Haven't seen it in a while, but it's going to go to Dignitas. These two teams definitely have a lot of pride on the line here in this matchup, as they've been playing together and against each other for a very long time.
Yeah, and we can see some Link's highlights here. And he definitely had a lot of impact with his Dragon Blade in a lot of these spots. That play there was the one that really opened up that first point. And Olba, we mentioned him, he really bailed out Overwatch Kings, to be honest, in the second and third points of the run there, and it did go to overtime, so it was really, really close. They almost didn't complete. In fact, really, in many ways, they shouldn't have been able to complete if not for him, so well done to him.
Yeah, Olba with a little bit of heroics and making it happen there with McCree, but that's the first map. I wonder where we are going to be headed next. We've got Numbani on the list, and
Anubis.
And I do wonder, Anubis and Numbani, both kind of different, both kind of strange map choices potentially. I shouldn't say strange, but maps where we tend to see different kinds of strategies, different kinds of shenanigans, off-kilter hero picks. And I wonder what's going to favor OW Kings. You know, I almost feel like I'd like to see them go with Anubis just to throw a wrench into this strategy for Dignitas. You know, we didn't see Dignitas take a whole lot of wins on the capture point maps in the past. I don't know. We'll see.
I do feel like it is, like you said, throwing a wrench into the works. Sometimes Anubis can be a novelty-sized wrench. It can just make all sorts of trouble, and it can be kind of awkward sometimes as well. And it can be some of the longest games we see because of how awkward it can be to capture those points and all the overtimes we get into. It's very interesting. I don't know which I favor actually between these two maps. If I was pushed, I would probably go for Numbani, and I know that we're having a slight delay here because they're really taking their time to make the decision. So as far as Numbani and Anubis go, I think Overwatch Kings would probably be a little bit better off going with Anubis, but it seems like they've gone with Numbani.
All right, Numbani it is, and This is always an interesting map to watch because every team has a sort of different approach. There really hasn't been a standardized way to attack or defend here on Numbani. But map 2 coming your way between Dignitas and OW Kings. Of course, Dignitas did take the first map, and they are the favorite in this matchup as well, so no big surprise to see that happen. And we are still in the winner bracket of this group, so the loser not down and out yet, but certainly you want to stay in that winner's bracket for the chance to face off against LG, who we saw take a 2-0 victory earlier today as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, we set it up on the desk when we were talking about the histories and the statistics between these two teams, and what we're looking at from the on-paper discussion. And I feel like Overwatch Kings, showed a lot of potential in that matchup. That there was a little bit of hit and miss there, but Dignitas weren't perfect either. There was a lot of openings that they were able to capitalize on, and they have the individual skill there, which we quite clearly saw with Shadow and Olba. So definitely Overwatch Kings. I feel like it's much closer than statistically we think it should be, which is great to see.
Yeah. OW Kings, they've been around for a while. They've taken a lot of mid-tier placements in the, I want to say, the 4 to 6 range in a lot of online tournaments throughout the course of the last couple of months since the launch of this game, this wonderful, wonderful game of Overwatch. But if I'm looking at any player on OW Kings to really step it up here on Numbani, it's got to be Shatter. Genji play does happen quite a lot. Especially on attack, you really, really like to have Genji because of the fact that there's really two separate ways to attack. The left-hand side and the right-hand side, there's so much space in between them, but you do often see the Genji going on to the right-hand side from attack because of the mobility, and he can just get, he can poke there and then get back to his team very quickly. That said, it's going to be Shatter on Reaper here first to start things off.
Right then, so what will be the chosen route? We've seen a lot of teams they've started to do this, just no messing around, and it has actually caught some teams off guard, especially with the speed boost. We've got Winston, I love this, just going straight into the back lines as the Reinhardt pushes around the side. They've got to be careful here because Winston is a distraction right now, but he's going to be eliminated from a flashbang, and the follow-up comes in. So Dignitas actually making some work happen here, but Shadow 2K able to get a frag back as right now Dignitas are pulling ahead, and it looks like a very easy take at the payload. So sometimes the simplest play is the best one, and Dignitas are going to be loving it right now.
Yeah, absolutely dominant play now as Dignitas looked pretty solid there. I mean, if you saw the position for Olba that we were watching him on McCree, he was in a great position to dole out damage, but Dignitas knew he was up there. They were able to respond to that. They put the Discord Orb on his head. They had a Genji jump up and take him out in the end, so Olba not able to get really what his team needed from him in that position all by himself. But that said, it's another engagement happening here and now as OW Kings moving straight forward onto the payload. They don't want this thing to move any further forward, but Bromas, Numlock, Linkser, Bromas, Linkser getting 5 kills instantaneously. Dignitas is going to be able to push this thing for another 30 seconds completely unfettered.
Bromas is basically playing whack-a-mole there, just like seeing just a head appear for a pixel flying behind the bus and just boom, shoots it straight off. That is pretty glorious. And getting the frag so quickly really adds up in a game like in Overwatch, and we will see now Dignitas trying to push forwards even further as it's Overwatch Kings to meet them. We will get Rip jumping straight in there to go for the initiation. We've got the sound barrier there to counter things there for Dignitas. They're looking quite strong. Fast strike coming in, but Olba, just at the back lines, pulls out the Deadeye. The shield is up though to protect the teammates there of Dignitas. Numlock doing a very good job from that perspective, and Bromas, once again, able to just get the shots in from behind the safety of that shield and his meaty teammates. Oh,
poor OW Kings. They got to be thinking, why did we choose this map? It's not going our way, as Dignitas has looked utterly dominant here. Almost every fight has gone their way, so much so that only 1 or 2 of Dignitas even go down in each of these engagements, and Dignitas moving ever closer to setting a ridiculously fast pace here on Numbani as they move on to the final stretch.
Yeah, they've been saving ultimates for a rainy day, but Numbani is a very sunny place. I don't know if they'll ever experience that now as they go for the final. What could be the final push here, depending on how this one goes. Shatter finally gets an opener onto Bromas, no less. Taking down the DPS, the tank in Numlock falls as well. That's great work here for Overwatch Kings as they finally will have a fight that will go their way. They push them all the way back, but Dignitas actually, I can't help but wonder if they feel like they were trying to bait Overwatch Kings to use a lot of ultimates, when in actual fact they didn't really have any in that situation, because Dignitas decided to just hold back there. They could have used the Transcendence, they could have used the Graviton, they could have gone for a lot of plays, but they just held back. But in doing so, now Overwatch Kingston having such an easy fight, they got 5 ultimates.
5 ultimates actually for both teams now, and this is what ZP has now coined as the ultimate showdown, as both teams will be throwing everything out and looking. Transcendence is going to be staring each other down for both Zenyatas there. Numlock will get the first kill. Linkser not able to get any value from the Dragon Blade, but no harm and no foul as the kills continuing to spiral out of control now for Dignitas. And OW Kings has to hope that they can delay this any time here, because this is such a fast time that they're working on for Numbani. Adetto just jumping into the fray in the last possible second. There's going to be a sound barrier on the point here for OW Kings, but nothing happened with that. The sound barrier didn't allow for a single kill, and that was maybe the 5th or 6th fight out of maybe 7 fights that just went completely one-sided to the favor of Dignitas.
Yeah, and you can see the flicks there from Bromas doing a great job with the McCree, and I was talking about that situation where they did go into the final push with an ult advantage, but decided not to use any. And there's also, I guess, a big argument for just saying, you know what, we want to have one of those big ultimate showdowns, because when we get right on top of the point and there's a lot of stragglers running in, we need a very decisive wipe. And that's perhaps one of the best ways to get that. So a great play in the end from Dignitas, looking comfortable, as you said, all the way along. And again, as you said, Overwatch Kings must be really regretting the decision of Numbani, because that did not go so well.
Now they have only 4 minutes to get through Numbani, which means, frankly, they can only be wiped about one single time. I mean, if they're wiped more than once, they basically are down and out. They've got to make it happen from the get-go, and we'll be interested to see how OW Kings decides to attack here. For a moment there, they had both the Winston and the D.Va set. We'll see what they end up on, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see that actually end up being their strategy here. Of course, Numbani is a map that has a ton of very vertical high grounds that only characters like Genji, only characters like Winston, D.Va can really get all the way up on top of at a moment's notice. So we'll see if they do end up finalizing on that strategy.
Yeah, and with the Mei, the Winston, the D.Va, you know, everybody flying in, and the ice walls and so on. I suppose divide and conquer might be the plan there for Overwatch Kings in some fashion, and be interesting to see whether or not Dignitas are going to be able to predict this kind of play. I mean, Mei, I've seen Mei quite a few times picked by teams on Numbani, but as you said, it's one of the maps where you can see a lot more unconventional setups.
I think we can't be, is this real? We're really seeing a Mei on attack? This is strange, because you can see Mei sometimes on defense as her ice wall can block off some of those entrances entirely, but here we have Mei on attack, and what's he looking to pull out here? He's just kind of trying to give his team a little bit more survivability, trying to block off that high ground, but that Mei wall only lasts a little while. That said, the first kill will end up going their way. There's going to be a response from Artier though, and I mean, I like the concept, I like the idea, I like the thought. It's something different, it's something unique, but I just can't see Mei working out here on attack.
Well, they did get completely wiped, basically, so yeah, it wasn't a good start considering the insanely fast time that Dignitas did set. So that's definitely going to be a very rough situation for them. Now, will we see any switches here? It looks like we will be off of the Mei, and we'll see the Tracer and Olber, of course. Yeah, so, I mean, Overwatch Kings, that Gambit didn't work out.
Not at all. Zenyatta will be the selection for Adetto, and that's a character he plays a lot of. Trying to communicate with his team, dropping the Discord orb, and Olba in coordination gets that first kill, but Dignitas has struck right back. It's going to be the the Dragon Blade coming out and getting a couple of kills and damage done for Linkser, and Dignitas holding strong once again with only 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. Are we going to see any kind of switch up? I mean, OW Kings clearly with that Mei selection trying to catch Dignitas off guard in that first push, but just didn't end up working out too well. I mean, that ice wall was only up for a couple of seconds, only gave them a couple more seconds of survivability. So this could be the final nail in the coffin if OW Kings can't make it happen here in this next push. DDK, what do they need to do here?
Well, they need to kill everybody. That's what they're going to do, Fistics. They're going to kill everybody and take the payload. And we have to see whether or not that's going to be the case right now, as Overwatch Kings have lost their support. That's very unfortunate, because he was very close to that sound barrier. And right now, Bromas able to get in all these free shots with that McCree, that beautiful mid-range there. This is just every hitscan player's dream, just sitting here, just getting free shots, shooting fish in a barrel. It's like warm-up right now for him, a shooting gallery, as all of Overwatch Kings slowly but surely are to fall. Linkser with the last couple. and it's just a formality at this point, perhaps, as Dignitas are really just doing a bit of a victory lap, and there it is. GG's will be called as Dignitas will very, very handily take Numbani. And let's not forget that when it got to the second map, Overwatch Kings, they took their sweet time in deciding and weighing up Numbani or Anubis.
And, you know, I could see why they wouldn't want Anubis, because Lynx are kind of known to play Mei here and there, so Anubis is a point where that tends to work. That said, kind of a brick wall. Dignitas looking so dominant, so strong here on Numbani, and even more so than Route 66. I mean, Route 66 in the end was somewhat close, at least. But here we go. It's going to be Dignitas moving on 2-0, staying in the winner's bracket for their win there. They're going to be able to go up against Luminosity Gaming in the winner's bracket coming up in just a little bit. But we've been rejoined, of course, by our friends and co-hosts. It's, of course, Josh and Rachel Seltzer. And Ask Joshy, what did you think about that game?
That was, it was quite a matchup. I really enjoyed seeing Route 66, and it was refreshing to see how close the two times were. I think only about 2 minutes, 20 seconds separating them. But then we got to Numbani, and I think it got a little bit more decisive. So, Joshy, what were your opinions on the matchup?
It was kind of two different paces to that game. When we first started on Route 66, it was the slow, steady pace of OW Kings setting a time. And then after that, it was just rapid-fire deaths from pretty much everybody on OW Kings as Lynxer and Bromos just woke up. Genji and McCree all day long just getting kills left and right. They really just looked like they just kind of fell apart on OW Kings. They really couldn't stand up to the might of the DPS players. There weren't a ton of like standout, you know, ridiculous mistakes or anything. Is just purely outskilled. The combos there that you're seeing throughout, actually, you know, both sides had their fair share, but that huge Graviton Surge from R tier getting everybody in one group, and they just fall like bowling pins. Like that sort of thing seemed to happen a lot more often for Dignitas. I have to give credit to Shatter 2K and Olba. They did a good job on the attack here on Route 66, but after that phase, they really didn't show up nearly as much as Bromos and Lynxer just on those DPS characters.
Well, Shatter, a bit of a recent pickup, I believe, for Overwatch Kings. Ben, what can you tell me about them?
Shatter, of course, a lot of people might recognize him from Seagull's stream. He actually duos with Seagull all the time. And he's a very talented Genji. But when it came to the team coordination, I think you're right, Joshy. He just wasn't able to find these opportunities to come in with the Dragon Blade, and I think that's mainly because there weren't a ton of massive Graviton Surges. He wasn't able to have the distraction of, let's say, a Winston jumping in perfect coordination too often. And to get those huge Dragon Blade sprees, you know, it might be just it might look a little easy from time to time because each slash just has a crazy range, but you can't do that without the coordination of your team, and Shatter did not actually have that too often, and that's a big reason why they went down and out.
Yeah, DDK, we saw a couple moments, Shatter managing to pull out of like 2-3 kills, Olba a couple times, especially right there on the end of Route 66, managing to pull off, I think, a 4-kill Deadeye. Really nice, but no follow-up. So what really, what did those two DPS players need from their team there to make that work for them?
I think that's actually quite a good question, because for me it did feel like across the board, you know, the supports and, for example, Numlocks, you know, the Reinhardt there for Dignitas. He played really solidly, and you know, getting a lot of really nice fire strikes, being very, very solid, just protecting his squishies and making sure that I think I saw every charge that he made was actually pretty money, to be honest. And he was even able to get into the back lines in these moments when his support was protected. So again, you know, as we usually talk about, sometimes the tanks and the support don't get as much limelight. But I think I would put in a lot of shout outs to Numlock there for just really solid play. And when you're in a match like Numbani, you need to be able to actually get like those really solid Earth Shatters. A lot of it is about that Reinhardt versus Reinhardt kind of situation and how you manage to land those Earth Shatters. And I feel like, generally speaking, Overwatch Kings weren't as good at facilitating a spot where you could get one of those money Earth Shatters and get that wipe and get that flip that they really needed, because they just got run straight through on Numbani.
All right, let's check out the incredible play of the game and see what kind of style this highlights. I mean, we did see a couple kills. What I thought most impressive from Dignitas, they were able to pull off a series of kills without using their ults at all. We saw A lot of damage there coming in from Numlocked, a lot from their McCree on Bromos.
Yeah, Bromos specifically getting multi-kills without Deadeye a couple of different times. And I think this is, the very end of the Route 66 attack for OW Kings. They barely were managing to touch the payload just to keep overtime going, but the triple Deadeye and then a follow-up 4th kill very quickly onto that Zenyatta made Olba look like a superstar. They're just taking up the entire kill feed, so definitely worthy of the incredible play of the game. Very solid ultimate and follow-up from him just to be able to set a time on Route 66. But the story of that match was all Dignitas. It was not even as close as our first match today, Luminosity versus No Name Yet. So I'm very excited for the winners match, which is going to be our next one, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Our next match, of course, going to be Luminosity versus Dignitas. But before we get too far into that, let's take it back to Numbani and talk about the strengths Dignitas showed in that complete shutdown on that map.
I think on offense, clearly they set a blazing fast time. 4 minutes is actually pretty ridiculous to set on Numbani against a team that we considered as, pretty closely matched, at least not,
well, not Ben.
Unfathomable.
Right. Ben said no when I asked him.
Well, Dignitas favored, yes. Different leagues, no. And that made it look like they were in different leagues. Dignitas, Lynx are, like you mentioned, Numlocked actually getting great charges throughout, basically just pushing back the defense constantly. And essentially all the kills just went the way of Dignitas. Their aim was totally sharp today, and they were looking very scary for Luminosity. But yeah, Numbani, again, just blazing fast speed, and they held up on their defense much better, obviously, than they did on Route 66 anyway, even though they only had to defend for 4 minutes. So things just looked easy for them on Numbani.
So Joshy, what about the May on offense there on Numbani?
I don't know, man. 4 minutes. You're trying to beat a time of 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So the hope with May is that you're going to section someone off very quickly by a surprise attack. And did they actually get a surprise attack?
I've seen it like once or twice before, and it does seem like very hit or miss. Sometimes maybe you can lock off 3 players to get that quick isolation, but I feel like they are in this position where they know they have to take a big gamble because skill-wise, they're going to need a little bit of luck and to gamble pretty hard. So from that perspective, I can really respect it. But yeah, it definitely fell flat on its face.
Yeah, it's worth a try. But unfortunately, this time did not shake out well for them.
Yeah, I think a storyline for me, at least, for this Dignitas squad is the shuffle between Bromos, Artir, and Lynxer. They keep kind of moving things around.
All flexible.
Will this be their final lineup that they actually continue to consistently play with this time Artir switching onto tank? And he actually had played so much McCree in the past. He was playing Genji last week, so now he's switched onto the tanks. Yeah. Will this be the lineup that carries Dignitas back to where we kind of expected them to be? I'm going to have to find out in a little bit. Yeah, it's a big strength of theirs that Bromos and Lynxer and Artir are all capable of playing DPS or a tank. Bromos actually used to play Lucio primarily, so very flexible players are going to help you have an incredibly strong team. Okay, well, we're going to see more from Dignitas right after this break when they go up against Luminosity. Don't go anywhere.